Today we've got quite a lot to talk about. Blizzard are moving damn fast. Patch 11.1 has been fully unveiled with a WoWcast, patch notes, and a PTR build, but it's one that can be data mined, but right now is not playable because servers are not up. I assume that'll be till the new year. But you know what's even more wild? PvPers are actually getting something insane. Definitely send an ambulance to Venrookie's house. Hopefully he's not had a heart attack because of this news. Now, it's not a lot, basically. There's a new arena map. It's called Cage of Carnage. It looks tiny and chaos-focused, which is probably going to be neat. But anyway, enough jokes. Let's get on to the rest. Number 1, this is big. Data mining has shown that gilded crests are going to drop from delves. That's massive. We don't know the full story here, but the tooltip for gilded Undermined crests says they come from Delver's bounties on tier 8 and above, and then something called a Delver's gilded stash on tier 11. We don't exactly know what all of that stuff means, but basically it does seem Blizzard have actually got the guts to do that. That means that the hardest delve content there is will actually be worth doing, and if you're a delve player, you can fully load out your character just by doing delves, which is good because a lot of those people felt like they had to go and do Mythic Plus. Suffice to say, it was not a great time. Blizzard have cooked, just like today's sponsor, who you can use to save money, be more secure, and access more content. I use them for just that, and at nordvpn.com/Bellular Warcraft, you'll get 4 months free on a 2-year plan backed by their 30-day money-back guarantee. Now, put simply, what a VPN does is it lets you browse the web as if you're anywhere in the world, and this can be, so strong it feels like a hack. Here's the best example for me. Airline and car rental pricing is often dynamic based on where you are. And that means you can clear your cookies, fire up Nord, change your region, and you'll often find far more competitive prices. And with that, you can easily save way more than the cost of your subscription. Now, I know that could all sound pretty techy and complex, but no, their app and their browser extension make it super simple. And if you want to say throw it on your router for network-wide security, you can do that too. And of course, this is all great for unlocking region-locked content, which is kind of everywhere. Nord stops your ISP from snooping, for prioritizing certain types of traffic you use over other types of traffic, and you get access to their fantastic threat protection services, along with new features like MeshNet, and you can even bundle in some of their other amazing tools, like NordPass to manage your passwords. And best of all, you get 4 months free with a 2-year plan at nordvpn.com/Bellular Warcraft. So big thanks to them for their years of support in the channel, and let's go. Another thing then is dinars, which, to be honest, won't make much sense to most people if you didn't play Shadowlands, but basically, they added a system in Shadowlands called dinars in the final season, and the idea was that it was some backup deterministic gearing. We're actually getting that in this raid. But not just that, this is really cool. The raid has got a renown track, and the various rewards are actually really nice. There's 20 levels overall, and I would assume that by just killing bosses, you end up just getting reputation, basically like raid reps from way before. Now, there's actually 2 types of currency here. You get counterfeit chips that let you pick up cosmetic appearances, and then you get cartel chips, which basically let you just pick up 2 raid items of your choice, just from going and progressing through the raid. And there's way more in the renown track as well. So you get profession tables, faster eating, raid skips, even a stacking out of combat movement speed buff. And there's another buff that actually lets you self-resurrect out of combat, which basically I think means if you haven't soulstoned somebody, that's okay. If your healer has, I think it's jumper cables or whatever, if your healer's got that, then they can just resurrect themselves and mass heal everybody. So that really is pretty damn cool. Now, of course, there's also damage and healing buffs as you progress. There's vendors for repairing and removing the lust debuff, a whole bunch of other things, consumable buffs. There's an auctioneer, there's a mount, and for completing it, there's even a raid portal. So basically, that's pretty damn cool. It represents actually a push forward in raid systems that we've not seen in a very long time indeed. Now, we've got basically no details on the specifics here, but it seems like they're basically just trying to solve loads and loads of problems using a familiar enough solution that hopefully they'll be able to apply to future content, future raids. It's pretty neat. Okay, the next thing then is the Warband camp screens. You can customize these now, and data mining has found 4 new login screens and an achievement that rewards one of them. So far, it's all war within locations, but I suppose we can expect that to change in the future. The patch notes then also announced camp groups. This is actually pretty neat. What you can do is make up to 20 groups of characters on your screen and then assign each a favorite campsite. So as you're going through your character list, you can basically set up all of your characters to have a cool looking login screen in whatever way you want to pair them, which is actually kind of nice. It's proper effort to, I suppose, make this not just a feature that is technically there, but a feature that feels like it's been advanced, made player friendly, made a bit more interesting. So I like that a lot. Now, the next thing is class changes, and these these are humongous. They're really, really damn big. There are actually, there are so many, even demon hunters are finally getting some change here. It's only a few, but they're actually quite targeted towards glaring issues. But the real story here, and I've been waiting for a long time for this to happen, a full rework to Marksmanship Hunter. And this looks really cool. It keeps the bones of MM as it is, but it removes a whole ton of bloat, it tightens the core aimed shot and precise shots loop, and it finally fixes the bizarre do I have a pet or don't I have a pet thing. Because basically, rather than having no pets and taking Lone Wolf, you always have a pet. But it's not a normal annoying pet. It's an eagle companion that basically joins you in battle with procs, and it gives you massive aimed shots. It essentially just looks like you have an eagle that will sometimes be swooping down, doing damage, and it'll have various talents that impact that eagle. So I think we're essentially getting the Lone Wolf gameplay where we didn't really want to be doing pet management, but we actually do get the benefit of, having a pet. And the pretty damn cool part of this is it does have pet utility. There is intimidation and there is bloodlust. Pretty nice. I'm looking forward to that. Now, for the other specs, Pack Leader has been completely reworked, thankfully. It now will summon new pets. There's a boar, a bear, and a wyvern, and it's basically all themed after the character Rexar. And hunters can also finally change their pet's spec again, and this time you can do it from the stables. A lot of things for Hunter, I can't wait to get into that. But Druids, good news, you have finally got a complete overhaul to your class tree. People actually seem to be raving about that, so yeah, pretty damn good. Now, Mistweavers and the Healing Priest changes have also been received pretty damn well, and interestingly, Enhancement Shaman has, it's gotten rather out of hand between some bits of bloat, a lot of changes happening, and then their hero talents. So Blizzard are doing a substantial rework, and big picture, almost every spec has at least got some minor improvements here. And for Augmentation Evokers, you've just had a reckoning. This is quite something. So Augvokers will no longer buff tanks and healers. Pretty big change. And that means that they are a DPS support. So a little bit strange in terms of their niche. And in one way it's a shame because it's Blizzard stepping away from what was a more unique design, but they were a nightmare to balance. They often dominated in Mythic Plus, and I think Blizzard have basically just thought that the juice is not worth the squeeze there. This should basically end their reign and free up some group comps. Obviously, we hope they're still going to be viable. Now, the next change is a big one, and it's getting close to something that everybody wants, and that is the removal of key depletion. So, there's a new achievement added called Keystone Legend. It's for getting 2850 rating, which is fairly high. Once you've got that, though, your keys will no longer deplete below 12, and your vault keystone will always be 12, and that means that you can miss a week or two of doing Mythic Plus with basically no penalty. I suppose I like the idea, but for a lot of people it is tantalizingly close to the thing that they want, but in a way where it won't necessarily help them, because for a lot of people Mythic Plus is about progressing and gearing up their character. They don't really care about key pushing, and this is only really going to impact the key pushers. Now, for everybody, we do have a new affix that is coming in. It's replacing the orb spawning one, and it's called Pulsar. It seems like basically pulsars will appear and they will orbit around players. I assume if you touch them, you'll be damaged. Sounds like a melee nightmare. I guess we just have to see how that one play tests. Anyway, there is a change to gearing. So we used to get tier tokens for getting 1600 PvP rating, Keystone Master, or ahead of the curve. And that's now changing to a bonus catalyst charge. Blizzard basically said that they want to move on from gear tokens, and I guess I can see why. They want less tokens and things and doohickeys and stuff. But, this is obviously a nerf. This is a nerf in the gear that you're getting, especially for, say, Mythic Plus and PvP. Maybe a bit less so for Raiders because, we'll get an extra Catalyst charge, and depending on where we are, of course, in the Renown track, we will get a piece of deterministic raid gear. So I suppose we'll be okay, but I'm not sure about anyone else. Anyway, the last few things in the patch notes are all about the UI, and they actually look pretty great. So our quest log is getting a handful of upgrades, even including a new event tab. It's kind of nice, and it means that from the video game, this is unheard of, you'll be able to see timers, track your weekly, completion of things, and even set yourself reminders, which is big for baseline player knowledge, because I think most World of Warcraft players who don't regularly check Wowhead are just kind of like headless chickens in-game, because WoW does a really bad job of presenting itself. Now, there's also another great UI change as well. The game will now display add-on performance information, and, I think add-ons actually impact performance more than most people think. There is an add-on you can get to profile the performance of your add-ons, but once you're installing that, you're pretty niche. So it's great for player information, and to be honest, I think their support agents will be very happy that they can say, yes, your 8,000 weak ores may be what's causing your frame rate issue. The good news, though, is we don't just have to read patch notes. We've seen the Wowcast, and they actually showed off a whole bunch of things in that. Number 1, here is D.R.I.V.E, dynamic and revolutionary improvements to vehicular experiences. Love a good acronym. Basically, it's dynamic ground mounts. That means you'll be driving about the place and sort of feeling like you've got physics, handling characteristics. Blizzard confirmed that this is 3 to 5 times faster than a ground mount. It's actually faster than skyriding, and looks pretty damn good in their footage, even including the failed, the shot of like doing failed drifting. Looks kind of nice. They've got a ton of cosmetics and lots of gameplay customization that I think will remind you of Mario Kart. Basically, you can change up different parts of your car that will impact your speed, acceleration, handling, that sort of thing. Of course, as expected, this is coming along with race courses. They're called Timekeeper Challenges. They seem pretty long and kind of tough, which I think is actually a really good thing. And being real, I'm excited for this. If this experiment ends up working, well, we could see some fairly interesting things for ground mounts in the future. But okay, delves, we've got to talk about those. Obviously, there was the data mining about the gilded crests dropping from them, but there is more. We get 2 new delves. There is Side Street Sluice, which has got us countering the Dark Fuse, who are, of course, these guys from the Ringing Deeps. Basically, they're up to something in the Undermined sewers. Then we got our second delve called Excavation Site 9. To be honest, it looks pretty sick. It's a big Titan ruin that is full of black blood, and it's not located in Undermined. It's actually an unrevealed part of the Ringing Deeps. Now, do you remember this cave with the instanced rocks? We all thought that that would be the entrance to Undermined, some sort of big tunnel, but no, it's actually another subzone of the Ringing Deeps that will be added in this patch. The delve itself is about excavating stuff, but I think the area itself is just the more important thing here. They say in the Wowcast anyway that it's really good for environmental storytelling. It shows us basically what they call the eternal conflict between Titans and Void, which is pretty exciting, and it does seem like a perfect follow-up to the 11.1 prologue. Don't know if you've done that in live, but basically this is where Orwena's visions seem to be leading her. So whatever's there, it's probably going to involve Xal'atath hatching some sort of plan with Gallywix. But as it turns out, that's not all, because most of the existing delves are also going to get a fresh Goblin variant, which I guess will help to keep things kind of fresh. Now, another thing is we already knew that Bran was going to stay as a companion, and that he would get a tanking role, but we've now seen something that, well, we didn't know, and that World of Warcraft has literally not had, and that is a ranged tank. Yeah, somehow he's a ranged tank. He uses a gun and a shield at the same time. And that does remind me of the leaked class survey that we talked about perhaps a week and a half ago. Now, that had 2 class ideas that used one-handed guns. And here, what do we see? We see one-handed gun, shield, tank. Kind of neat. Anyway, we've got a new delve mount as well. It's called the Gobtrotter, and it's got a unique golden version that is earned by defeating this season's take on Zek Veer. There's also a pretty neat curio that you get for Bran whenever you defeat like the new challenge boss dude, and that curio will spawn in a goblin mech for you to use during delves. So that's what's going on with delves. I hope that whatever way it all scales, whenever we're doing, say, a tier 11 delve to get some gilded crests, that it actually ends up coming together as a properly, just a good, challenging game experience. Anyway, let's talk about the season then. So the season itself will start 1 week after the patch launches, and a big departure from last time is the raid story mode will launch 1 week after that, which is way earlier than it was. That's kind of neat. Basically, Blizzard said that a lot of people did the story mode, so they're happy to continue that, and this case is especially important because the Gallywix boss fight and cutscenes are important to the story that they're trying to tell, which again just makes me think there will be something with Xal'atath. Obviously, the goblins as a people have got a problem. They would always like more Khajiit. Maybe Xal'atath has got one. I mean, in a video, we call it Xalacola. Who exactly knows? But anyway, Xal'atath's MO is generally to appear, to identify that somebody's got a problem and say, great news, I have the solution to your problem. Don't worry, there are no downsides. That's probably what's happening. And speaking of things that are happening, there's of course the new dungeon. It's called Operation Floodgate. The Dark Fuse and Venture Co. are basically working together to burst the dam that is keeping the Ringing Deeps dry, and we need to stop them. It's going to be open on day 1, and then the Mythic Plus version will be there a week later whenever the season itself comes out. Blizzard reiterated as well that the Mythic Plus list is, of course, the new one, which basically means the 4 base dungeons we didn't get this season, plus the Workshop, the Motherlode, and the Theater of Pain. Yay, the Theater of Pain. Now, Mark Coletta in the video, he actually apologized for Theater of Pain, specifically because he himself had made trinkets for that dungeon, and he knows that some people are going to be frustrated farming some of those trinkets. Which certainly raises a point. If Blizzard are apologizing for a dungeon, even if it's obviously tongue-in-cheek, maybe we should take a look at that. Maybe something's not quite right. You know, like people, was it the unstable amalgam? people just do Mists of Tyrannus Scythe until they died to get that damn thing. Anyway, it is totally worth looking at the footage here. The raid didn't get a massive amount of airtime. It was just showing some new footage and them talking about how much as a design team they wanted to push all the zany goblin bullshit and just the crazy design stuff. To be honest, it actually does seem like it's landed. I mean, big T-Rex gorilla fight actually looks kind of cool. There's this mobile tank. There's a DJ that fights you with the power of sound. It seems like the design team have actually had fun here. A lot of other goblin bosses have actually been pretty damn cool in the game. There's just so many like natural gameplay opportunities because you can think of some stupid gizmo, gadget, death machine that is a goblin thing, and you can make a really cool raid mechanic out of that. So as a raider, I want to go there, kill Gallagio, get ahead of the curve. I'm actually looking forward to it, and it's pretty neat that there's a mount version of the mechanical T-Rex that has also been confirmed, and it looks pretty damn amazing. Okay, the last major bit of news is how the cartel system will work, and the good news is, not like Covenants. So Blizzard initially said we would be working with a cartel of our choice, and people thought, have you made a whole patch, split it into 4 so that we just have to do the whole thing in 4 characters? The good news is no. Basically, it's a weekly thing just like Ashkahet, which in a way you could say is a bit sauceless, but people just want to go there on a character and experience the content. So the way it works is you will pick who you're working for that week. They will basically then be the people who are narrating your world quests. They'll give you access to unique content and rewards while you earn rep for them, and then the next week you can freely pick again. Imagine if Shadowlands had something like that. Wouldn't that have been a slightly different timeline? Anyway, now for the controversial part. So Blizzard have released the tier set bonuses, and not everybody is happy. Every role will now share their 2-set bonus. They're called Luck of the Draw, Insurance, and Jackpot, and the only thing that's unique to your class is the 4-piece. To your spec. Now, obviously, in a world where the extra design budget, sort of design time, goes into just making a really good 4-piece, that could be good, that could work. But certainly a lot of people's initial impression here was, did you just decide you wanted to do less work? And a lot of people especially thought that because in the first season of this expansion, and in the first season of expansions generally speaking, you have more simple bonuses because Blizzard are taking into account people getting used to class changes, new expansion, and all of that. So people generally expect seasons 2, 3 to actually have like some pretty damn sauced up, like cool, fun things to use. Yeah, so little bit weird. I think the idea of having some named bonuses that everybody shares that are themed after the raid could potentially be kind of cool. Blizzard are probably doing it to help balance, right? And, play different classes of the same role. But it's just not the exciting thing that I think most people want. And it's that challenging thing where, again, even if it's not bad, it is a little bit of a PR problem. Now, you can totally say, hang on a second, let's hit the pause button, because if you look at some of the Undermined raid trinkets, they look really cool. Obviously, class changes are extensive, so a lot of design time has went into this. Anyway, we'll just have to see how they actually playtest. Now, there is another problem, and that is the tank one. So the 2-piece will proc your defensive and bonus damage randomly, and then your 4-piece will give you extra bonuses during that, which is not good. For tanks, that is massively frustrating. The whole point of your defensive toolkit and the gameplay, the skill expression of playing a tank is, I will use my defensive toolkit when I need it so I don't die. Obviously then, having it proc without your control is insane. As an example, maybe you're off tanking or you're just cleaning up like the last mob in a pack, and then bam, you're like 2-set procs. You're like, oh great, I guess that's useless when I actually need it. Really strange. And then, of course, because it's on cooldown, it won't proc during when you're actually taking damage, assuming they were to incur its cooldown. I have to imagine they won't make it incur its cooldown, and it'll just be a free use of your defensive. Seems like a bit of a design miss. But the good news is they are asking for feedback right away, so even though there's some things where you could say it's a bit disappointing with the 2 sets being like that, like it's disappointing even made it to the concept stage, we'll need to see how everything shakes out. It does feel like something's got to give, though, with how poorly the game can end up being balanced when you've got talents, hero talents, trinkets, tier sets, all of those interacting with each other. Just look at how terrible Cersei's Circlet was, despite their best efforts. I think they made it so the launch version of the Circlet was as powerful as the fully upgraded one on the PTR, and it was still not beating gear that people already had, which was crazy. It does seem like maybe some of that stuff is moving so fast that they haven't really been able to respond. Now, there is one, not just one, actually quite a few things that are cool and are related to this, and that's the actual gear. Some really gorgeous models that have been data mined as well. Overall then, outside of a few disappointing things with tier sets, maybe some dungeon woes, you probably won't want to be living in the theater of pain, Actually, I think this patch is shaping up pretty great. I mean, seriously, with delves, some fundamental improvements there, so the delve players will actually feel like the game doesn't just say, you've had your 2 weeks of progress, stop, or play Mythic Plus, that's it. That obviously didn't feel good, so that's a really positive change. Raids. They're actually changing up raid progression in a way that looks really good. That's like, I mean, the whole thing with Dinars, that has been a long-running player request since Shadowlands, and it seems they've actually just incorporated it into their gearing model. Holy shit. Like, that's really, really cool. And again, Mythic Plus, I mean, come on, I'd like to see no depletion whatsoever, or at least having a version of this effect that kicks in a little bit earlier for people. I think that would, like, if they're absolutely set on not removing depletion and the removal of depletion being a reward, I think that should at least be staged on your way up to 12. And you've got so many other keystone, whatever, like KSM, etc. achievements that players could accomplish that with. I really think they should do that. And on the topic of both Delves and Mythic Plus, you got to remember how Blizzard have changed the rewards. So in M+, you are getting so many more crests than you did previously, especially for losing. It's no longer as punishing. And then, of course, Gildeds coming from Delves will be really big, but actually it will compound on top of another change. That change is the trading rate, right? So the trading rate was changed from 90 to 45. Now, when you have a 50% discount at every step of the chain, your difference in price ends up being crazy. As an example, right now, in-game, it takes 405 weathered crests to get 15 gildeds. Before the changes, it was over 3,000. I mean, more realistically, if you get 135 carved crests, which by just dicking about doing world content you'll probably get, you can turn that into 15 gilded. So that change in rates is absolutely massive, and that will also compound with gildeds dropping from delves and the cost decrease of the nascent gilded crests. And that does mean that solo gearing is about to look a whole lot different, and even better, it's not from mindless grind stuff. It's from content that actually scales up in difficulty. And so where I'm left in this is a little bit strange, because I'm feeling pretty good about this patch. I think D.R.I.V.E is really exciting. I'm really, really good for the delve changes and the raid changes. The raid looks awesome. Actually, the world content looks pretty cool too. But ain't it a shame that 11.7 came out in the way that it did, such that it kind of sabotaged this? Because it's hard to say, hey, get excited for next thing, whenever you've just got a new thing, and the big Cersei circlet that was marketed with a cool machinima to look super cool and super powerful ends up launching the way that it did. And even when they went and made it so that the citrines, you just can go and sort of grind them all out instead of it being gated, well, not all the citrines are great, and some of them are behind bosses that have been really bugged and annoying. It's like, impressions matter, PR matters. This patch looks really cool, and that's why it's a little sad to see it, I suppose, just not have the strongest opening, sort of opening it really should have got. Anyway, that's it from me. Of course, we'll be back in the new year, and there are 1 or 2 videos in the meantime, so enjoy those. I will see you again soon. Thanks for hanging out with me this year, and yeah, looking forward to 2025.